My father used to say to me, you're never going to be worth a dime, Don. And of course, you substantiated it. You made me feel good. Thank you.
Well, you're not worth a dime. You're worth so much more. So we're really happy you're here.
Thank you.
But also you're, I wouldn't say a native, but you grew up in Payson.
Well, no one grows up in Payson.
Well,
but anyway, I was in Payson for a few years, you know, then I moved to Springville and I lived in Thurwall, and then finally lived in Dublin, Ireland. That's what the Irish figured. I have to tell you something kind of interesting that is always, I've heard this is not original, but it is interesting and you can apply it to your own self. You know that dogs are colorblind, right?
Yes.
Well, that's the theory. Well, I sometimes feel like the dog that saw a rainbow, and none of the other dogs will believe me. Yeah, that's what it feels like sometimes, you know, because, and yet every once in a while I found people that said, you know, we believe you, Don, and we think there is a rainbow. Maybe there's something out there that, I said, yeah, there is, I saw it once. I saw it. And so these are the people that gathered around and helped make the movies that we made. Because they saw kind of a rainbow also. So it's just been a wonderful experience, guys. So I appreciate all of your thanks and all the things that you've done and the money that you may have spent today. So, very good. So thank you very much for all of that. And what I'm hoping more than anything is that one day, 2D animation, hand-drawn, will be the art form that it is, and it will take its place again in our society.
I did want to get a little bit of your life here in Utah when you were young. What was it like here? What did you think you were going to do when you were living in Payson? Did you think you were going to be this animation king that you are? Or did you just think, hey, if I can get to Provo, everything's going to be great?
No, the little thing that just sort of dominated my life was a hatred of the snow. So, I tried to learn to ski one time, and then it was a disaster, but the snow is so cold and everything, and I don't have that much weight on my bones, and so the cold just goes right into me. So I said, I want to live on the equator. I want to live somewhere where the sun is there all the time. So then I went to Dublin, Ireland. Dublin people are the only people I know, because the sun doesn't shine very much there, but they keep their picnic basket by the side of the door, and when the sun comes out for 15 minutes, they're off on a picnic. But that's the only thing you can do, because you can't plan on anything there, because it's very sometimes overcast in Ireland. Overcast. How many here know Ireland, have been there? Oh, these are the sweetest people. Irish people are the people that can sing, they can dance, they can paint, they can do everything. The thing they seem to do the best of though is fight.
The drink is a close second.
Oh, they drink a little bit, you know, but they'll deny that.
But speaking of drummers, didn't you do your mission in Argentina?
I did a mission in Argentina, so... Oh, good. So dare I ask, how many people know what that means?
Oh, no.
I miss Salt Lake City, I forget.
It's the people who don't know what a mission is very few.
Yeah, okay, so you know, what happened was is that I was working at Disney Studio at the time, and in 1 year's time, I was only about 19, 1 year's time I moved up from the lowly in-betweener, that's the lowest form of life, and then I moved up to assistant to John Lounsbury. And that was an amazing thing, and so it was also very gratifying because my dream was coming true. And then I found out that everybody around me that had been trying to move up really, really fast also, they'd been 20 years trying to do that, and I did it in a year. And I didn't know what that meant, you know, so I had people everywhere that did not like me. So anyway, but my bishop came to me and he said, Don, we want you to go on a mission, and what do you think? And I said, but my dream is just coming true, and I'm an assistant animator, and everything was just happening. And so the question was, he said, well, I look in the mirror and I talk to myself sometimes, and I said what should I do? And he says, well, do you serve God or do you serve Walt Disney? I said, well, I've seen Walt Disney. So anyway, he said, no, that's what faith's all about, Don. That's what faith's all about. You do it? And I knew immediately that I could not say no. So I got on a boat. I was the last missionary to go on a boat 9,000 miles away from home. And I got there, and they gave me, the first thing they did was hand me a piece of paper and say, Don, you're going to say in Spanish the blessing on the food in front of 20 missionaries. I said, I don't speak Spanish. He says, now you do. There was no missionary home to teach you Spanish. They said, buy a book and teach yourself how to talk. That's how that happened. And that was way, way, way back there. I think it was in the, I can't remember the year that all this happened, but it came back in 75, I think.
So I was going to say 71 or 72.
Yeah.
I'm just going by the research. I wasn't there. But
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that everyone knew you had a real deep connection to the area, and a lot of you can relate to being on missions. I can't. A mission burrito is pretty much all I can do. But we're going to start with the crowd because they're not really here for me. They really want to talk to you, Don. So are you ready for it? Now, I have already designated 2 people to start, but one had such confidence, such daring do, that I am definitely going to go to this side right here. And this young lady, just keep talking and they'll start turning it on for you.
Hello.
There you go. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Sarah, and starting your own animation studio was considered a huge risk. Can you walk us through your decision-making process to break away from Disney and start on your own?
I think most of my life has been governed by the fact that I can say when I first saw Snow White, I looked at the colors, I looked at the story, I looked at that horrible witch, you know, and all of that thing affected me, and I said, you know what, who made that? And then that launched me. I was only about 6 years old when I saw that. And I said, I want to do that, I want to do that. And I finally learned a name, Walt Disney. And I said, I got to meet this guy. But during that time, I lived on a farm and I milked cows. And that's all I knew how to do, you know, but I drew on my own, and I would comic books, any comics, and what I would do is copy them, trying to learn how to draw. And so I think drawing is an interesting thing, and some of you may know this, but you can draw a picture and you can love what you just drew. Put it on a desk in front of you, and in 3 days you'll hate it. Because your mind grows. And so, you know, what you think is beautiful one day is not the next. So I learned to do that, and then at some point I just said, to answer your question, I just said, you know what, Disney is taking away from reflections in the water, taking smoke, and taking all the magic that was on the screen because it's too expensive. So I said, no, you can't do that. And they said, be still and sit down, you're an employee. And that was the end of me in the studio. So somewhere I think you have to have the courage to say to yourself, you know, what do you want to fight for? And of course, your search for happiness is the important thing. And you find that by people that love you and the people that will allow you to love them. And art is all part of it. And I think art is not just a process. Art is spiritual. And it's the spiritual side of you that allows you to do the things you do that create beauty. That's what the art's about. And I knew that if I stayed at Disney Studio, I would just be another employee and nothing would happen that would thrill me, so I had to leave. Oddly enough, we had been making that little movie in my garage called Bancho the Woodball Cat, and 17 people left Disney at the same time we left, and I was, wow, that's a big deal. So we went out and made The Secret of NIMH. And there was Frank Thomas sitting at the table and a few others, you know, near him. And I went to him and I said, well, Frank, what did you think? What did you think of the movie we made? He says, why didn't you make a good movie? I said, Frank, you don't mean that. You don't really mean that. I said, no, it is a good movie, but it didn't work financially. And that is the criteria above all. If it works financially, then, you know, it's allowed to survive. So I think when that happened and nothing was happening, all 17 of us had left the studio, more people had come on after that, and we had no money, and Secret of NIMH was not paying money or anything, and So along came somebody named Rick Dyer that said, we want to make a game and we want it to look like Secret of NIMH.
Oh my God.
What is the game? It's called Dragon's Lair. So what I felt actually during my whole career, it's just amazing, I have felt I've never raised any money to make a movie, and it cost a lot, millions. So what I felt on my career is doors were automatically opened. And when one door closed, that window was open, and in came Rick Dyer and we made Dragon's Lair. And it was a fun thing to do. Many times we had no money to pay the people, and I remember, I've never said this. I remember one time somebody came in and he says, well, the payroll this week, here is a paper bag, it has $10,000 in it, pay your people. I said, where did it come from? Don't ask.
Some Goodfellas stuff. Like mafia.
Yeah, well it was. I found out later that it was some kind of, illicit, whatever it is. But the hard part was getting Bank of America to accept the $10,000 because they said, where did you get this money? So we had all those kind of things going on all the time. It was really fun, really fun.
Well, no, it was that I've been a business owner, that initial step. How scary is that initial step to, because you had Gary with you along the way.
Yeah, Gary and John Pomeroy, and I think what it is that you just plain don't look at the danger, don't look down. Don't look down, but say, this is going to happen, and you make it happen. Part of it is your own doubts. When you have doubts in yourself and doubts that you're good enough, or doubts that anyone even cares, like that, then it's harder. But I never had that, and I always felt very, very strong that if you want something bad enough, and it's for the good of the human beings, it will probably happen. And it did. I mean, I forego family, I forego marriage, I forego everything and just serve the art. And as I've gotten older, what I realized is that my calling in life was to make those movies because it would do something wonderful for people. It would cheer them when they're down. It would actually talk a lot about morals. And there is a right and there is a wrong, and there are villains. I love this. There's a song, if I take time to mention, there's a song from Sweeney Todd that I just love. And I'll just quote you a little bit. But anybody says, nothing's going to harm you, not while I'm around. Nothing's going to harm you, no sir, not while I'm around. Demons are prowling everywhere nowadays. I'll send them howling, I don't care, I have ways. And I've always loved those lyrics, because the demons are those people that don't cast a shadow, people that aren't very nice people to each other, people that are lost. And so those are the demons, and you have to watch out for them. They'll take your money, they'll take your life, they'll take everything you have, unless you believe that you're worthwhile. And that, my answer is, I thought it was worthwhile.
Thank you.
Great question. Now I'm going to switch over for another great question.
Hi, my name is Anthony Larson. It's great to have you here, Don Bluth. Anyway, were you friends with Steven Spielberg in 1988?
Were you friends with Steven Spielberg in 1988? Is that the question?
Yes.
So were you friends in 1988 with Steven Spielberg? Because obviously you were friends before then.
Steven Spielberg, I found out that he loved animation. That's what it was, that he loved animation, and I knew of Steven Spielberg. I had never met him or anything, but when he saw Secret of NIMH and Jerry Goldsmith showed that to him, so what happened is Steven called to the studio and said, yeah, come over and talk to you guys, maybe we'd like to make a picture together. And we said, what? And so, anyways, he came over in this little MG that he was driving at the time. He came in, we showed him all the collection of stuff we had, and he just rifled through them like it worked anything. And they're very delicate, they can chip and all that kind of thing. So, anyway, he came over and we cleaned up the whole building, and he walked into it, and it was like, the king was coming. And he said, look, let's look for a picture that we can do together. And we said, great, that sounds really good. Yeah, I'll do a picture with you. And he said, okay, let me find one. It took 2 years to find that picture, and that turned out to be An American Tail. Did you know that before he was called Fievel, that little Jewish mouse, he was called Mousy Mouskowitz. I bet you didn't know that. And one day Stephen came into the concert room and says, we're going to call him Five-O from now on. And we said, Five-O? Five-O? Who's Five-O? And he said, that was my grandfather, who came from Russia. So it became a very, biographical story that we were telling.
We're going to go over to this side. We're going to be alternating, so there'll be a pattern in a second.
Right, my question for you, Don, is in all your films you have very dynamic color palette that expresses a lot of emotions in your musicals and scenes for your characters. What's your theory about how you got all those amazing colors to convey those emotions in your animation? Because saying them out loud, they don't work, but once you see them, they're beautiful masterpieces. So how do you go about doing that?
Color is like music. Sometimes there's themes, and then there's harmony, and then there's sub-harmonies. There's all kinds of things in music, that has to work right. You can put two notes together in music, and it'll be dissonant, not fun to listen to. But if you put a third together, a third is really fun. If you put a fifth together, it's really more fun. But some you don't put together. Color is the same thing. And I knew enough about the color wheel to be dangerous. So I knew that there were complementary colors, red and green, Christmas. Yeah, orange and blue, complementary. So there are complementary colors, and then there are something called tertiary colors. And tertiary colors is where you mix part of the ordinary colors together and get a different thing. Like green is a tertiary, it's a combination of blue and yellow. And the first colors are red, yellow, and blue. Those are primary colors. Now start mixing around with those and you get all kinds of things. Those are tertiary. So anyway, you get to know that you can put these palettes together, and as you put them together, sometimes they sing to you. It's like music, it sings to you. And that's what we had. And we had gifted people that knew how to do that better than I.
What's your name?
Andrew Larson.
Okay. Did he just change outfits? Is it the same Andrew? Go ahead.
Anyway, did you and James Horner, the composer of American Tail and A Line for Time, did you and James Horner make a great team?
James Horner.
How do you like James Horner?
I love James Horner. He was fun to work with. He was a boyish kind of a kid. He never looked like he was very older, that he should know very much, but he was good. James is the guy that he would be leading an orchestra, and he would stop the orchestra and he said, okay, oboe, it's an F sharp. How could you hear an F sharp, an F, natural? But he did. James is the one who wrote Somewhere Out There. Oh wait, he wrote Somewhere Out There, and he played it as a rondo, so it's and it was very, very busy. So we sat down with a very well-known Cynthia Wilde Berryman, sat down with him, and Berryman has a very low, gruff voice who talks. And James played him Somewhere Out There, and Barry said, slide over, let me take the piano bench. So he went over there, and rather than turning it down, he says, he's got too many notes. Why don't you just say, somewhere out there. And Cynthia smiled, because she knew that he had hit it. And so, it turned into a very simplified, very beautiful melody, and by the time it was finished and orchestrated and sung and everything, it became a great wedding song. And it was sung weddings timelessly, as I noticed. Anyway, it was great to watch that. James Horner was so talented, and I miss him. Super talented.
I will go with this lovely young lady with the pink hair.
Thank you. My name is Dimitri Irwin, and I actually had a question about your style. Love your films, everything's so beautifully articulated, and with that in consideration, would you ever consider doing stop motion with any of your projects?
Have you ever considered stop motion because your style is so distinct and clear? Did I paraphrase that correctly?
Yes.
Well, animation is kind of stop motion. You have to draw each drawing, and then you photograph each drawing, and when you project it at 24 frames a second by your eye, it feels like it was not stop motion. But it's everything. You have to be able to visualize what the character thinks. Frank Thomas told me one time, the audience wants to see your character think, not just move. So you spend a lot of time doing a lot of in-betweens to slow the action down at that 24 frames a second, so your little character looks like it's thinking. And that's what gives it a lot of fun. So it's personality then. And I think other than that, you know, what the style of animation style is something that I picked up along the way. Particularly, I worked on a movie called Sleeping Beauty. And that's where all the roundness of characters kind of disappeared into angular looks. And it's easier to in between, it's easier on the eyes. So, and it's really hard to control something that's round and round and round and round, you know. And the beauty of life is contrast. So you could go straights against a curve, straights against a curve. And that was the better style.
Follow up with that, she was talking about stop motion. Can you work in other mediums? Are you purely an amazing artist, or do you also do sculpture?
There's not enough time. Not enough time. I mean, I'm 86 now, and I say to myself, hey, you know, you're going to run out of cards somewhere here. So what you want to do is do what you know how to do what you've learned how to do in the last 60 years, and do it well.
Hi, I'm Sydney. That was a little close. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
So your movie Anastasia is different than all your other movies because it's based on historical people and events that actually happened. So my question is, what inspired you to tell, like, what led you to Anastasia specifically, and why did you choose to tell that story and make the changes that you did to it?
You know what, there was a guy named Bill Mechanic who was president of Fox Production at the time, and he says, I want to make a movie, Don, that talks about rags to riches. Cinderella, rags to riches. My Fair Lady, rags to riches. Annie Get Your Gun, rags to riches. It's a thematic story. So we tried everything, and everything we turned to sounded like you'd heard it before. So finally, when we read enough about the Romanov family, and they were all killed. They were all killed. So we said, and she didn't even know she was a princess. There was a woman named Anna Anderson, thank you. Anna Anderson claimed she was the lost Princess Anastasia. Before there was DNA, no one could prove anything, but she was this old lady that said, no, when they assassinated the family, the Romanov family, she claimed that the bullets were in there and they had jewels hidden into there, and the bullets hit the jewels and ricocheted off, and so she lived. And the guy that was supposed to bury the family found her, got her well, married her. She had a whole story about this. But we said, well, wait a minute. What if it was a different kind of story? And it was a rag to riches, and she would then had amnesia. How would it work out then? And then what I immediately responded to was the fact that, well, don't we all have amnesia? We do. You know, we don't remember where we came from. We just suddenly are born here. And we don't remember, you know, who we are or what we're supposed to do with our life. So it was kind of like thematic about Anastasia. Who is she? What's she trying to find out? And the beauty of the story is, you go that entire story of her trying to find out if she's really the royal Princess Anastasia. And when she finds out, the guy who was the con man who took her the journey, she falls in love with, and suddenly she doesn't want to be the princess anymore, even though she knows she is. But she actually goes with Dimitri and becomes, you know, their couple. It's a beautiful story, but I found the story parallels a lot of our lives. So I thought it was worth telling, even though it's really not technically accurate about the Romanovs.
Thank you.
Well, first, thank you so much. You've blessed everyone in this room, and I wanted to thank you for that. My question is, if you could sit down with any historical figure, be it an ancestor, someone you know from history, and have a bowl of ice cream with them, talk about it, talk about things, who would it be and why?
Someone lactose intolerant. So if you had a chance to have ice cream, apparently it's ice cream,
Yes.
with anybody in history, Who would you like to sit down with from
That is really a tough question. There's a lot of people I'd like to sit down with, not particularly ice cream, but I'd like to sit down and have a chat. Probably first on my, this could sound stupid, but first on my list is Santa Claus.
Nice. You want cookies and not milk, then you don't need ice cream.
Well, and he's real, you know. So,
Yeah.
so I mean, I would sit down and I would say, why in the heck are you doing what you're doing? What are you getting out of this? I would have that. I would sit down with probably Walt at some point. I would sit down with him and I'd say, okay, Walt, tell me about what you're going through to make things happen. I know you're a good storyteller. I know you're a dreamer. Now, can this be anybody in history?
Yes, anyone, absolutely anyone.
Well, you're going to love this.
Here we go.
I would sit down with Jesus Christ. Not to find out something that I don't, already feel and know and everything, but I would sit down with him to say thank you for what you did. So that I could live. I am just crazy about that. Anyway, so
it doesn't sound like you're a fan of ice cream, though. That's the one I got out of the whole thing. You don't want to have ice cream? Do you not like ice cream?
well, it's only certain. It's Haagen-Dazs, yeah.
What's your favorite?
But my favorite probably is just plain old vanilla.
Oh, good. I think we can make that happen today. All right.
Hi, my name is Sarah Smith, and my question is, regardless of project success or production success, what production did you find yourself just having a ton of fun? Like, what is the one show that anytime you think back, you're like, yeah, that was really fun to make?
What's the one that you had the most fun on?
Oh,
Doesn't matter what the success of it was, but what's the most fun?
without hesitation, it would be Secret of NIMH. Now, the reason was because that was our first movie. We didn't know what we were doing. No one had ever written a script before. There was a book in front of us that was so complicated we couldn't do it all. And so trying to do it. So I wrote and wrote and wrote. I was writing the script myself, thinking that I knew what I was doing. But then I realized something. I went and got a book, How to Write a Script. I figured, well, we'll start there. And what it said in there is it said, you're probably writing too much, and your script will only be as strong as your villain. I took that to heart. I had written the little scene in the cinder block where the old shrew comes to the kids and everything. I had a stack like this, and none of it worked. None of it worked because there was no conflict. Without conflict, there is no exaltation. There's no triumph. So you need conflict, and so then, you want a villain, do you? So from that point on, we tried to find conflict in every scene, and then everything started to work. Conflict is important. I know you don't know about that because you have no conflict in your life, right? You're just smooth as can be. Everything is great. No, but you know what? If you say that, you don't know what's going on around you. Because conflict is good. That's how you learn. I heard something, I read it in scripture one time that says, God chastises those he loves. I had to look up the word chastise. So I think it means guides or helps. He chastises those he loves, get this, with pain and suffering. So I said, okay, so you're going to make us suffer, and that's how we learn? Yes, God, that's how it works. So we're not. And then I've been through a lot of stuff. I even went through cancer, for heaven's sake. I said, I got cancer? So there's a thing of the prostate. And so anyway, there was a thing in there which said PSA number, go get your PS number. Now normal is 0 to 4. That's normal. Mine was 6,250. That's what my doctor said, what you just said. And so he said, well, I think we can get you out of this. For about a year, I battled that little demon and won. Now I'm at 0.04. And I knew that I could conquer that and everything. So I said, okay, so in my prayers, I said, God, is this it? I got cancer. Do you want me to die? You want me to bring me home now? It's okay, whatever you want. And he said, no, it isn't time for you to die. He said, but you need to learn something. I said, what? He says, you'll see. What you need to learn is humility, and you need to learn to love people. And this will teach you. And it certainly did. And then, so from that moment I said, great, I'm so glad the cancer came and taught me that. Because I can say that I love people.
And of course, there's a reason why it's called job and it's spelled the same way as Joe, because you gotta work through it.
Yes.
So I think I am over here to this young lady.
Hopefully I don't cry. This is just an amazing opportunity because I got to meet you and got your autograph and meeting Christopher Lloyd as well. And he's also in one of your movies, Anesthesia. So my question is, did you get to cast and direct some of these other famous actors as well, and what was it like?
To direct?
Did you get to cast, and if so, what was it like meeting with some of them?
Okay, now I felt something that I know almost everyone feels. I mean, because I was the novice director, even when we did Anastasia, and I'd go in there and in would come Angela Lansbury. And I'm going to direct Angela Lansbury. Yeah. So no, but she was just so gracious, so wonderful, and so accommodating. She just tell me what you would like me to do, and I'm here to help. It was wonderful. She's the only actress I knew that didn't wait for someone to bring lots of food to her. She came in with a little brown bag lunch every day that she had packed. She was everyone's grandma. And I just loved her. And some actors were really, really hard. There was sometimes, particularly the men, sometimes we went in when we did Anastasia, Bartok was supposed to be funny, little clown. So anyway, we hired an actor, I won't tell you his name. We hired an actor to come in to be funny Bartok. And he came in and he was trying to be funny and tried to be funny. So we took it back and I showed the head of the studio and he said, not funny. Go back and ask him to be funny. Well, this was an actor that you don't tell that to. So anyway, I went back and I said, why don't we try a couple more different takes on this? He says, I know why you're here. You're trying to tell me that you don't like what I did. And I said, so he started beating me up. Verbal. So he said, okay, fine. And then, but we never used what he did. Finally, we found somebody named Hank Azaria, who is funny just to breathe, funny to look at, funny to listen to, everything. Anyway, he says, I thought I would direct Hank Azaria, and he said, Hank, this is a nervous little bat, nervous, very high-strung and everything. He says, just give me a couple of minutes, okay? So he's go in your booth and just listen. So I went in the booth and listened, and then he started talking like the little bat. I don't think, mister, that you should go on trying to kill, and it wasn't at all what we thought. But the whole gaggle of people in the booth were all laughing. I said, that's gold. That's gold. So I always am grateful for Hank, what he did. And that stupid little bat sort of stole the show from him. Thanks to Hank.
Just called him to walk over here. What's your name?
My name is Brandon.
Brandon, what's your question?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand, you started with working on Sleeping Beauty and did some of the animation. Can you tell us what you animated or what that was like?
Well, what I'm thinking of is that we were very ambitious. I think we said, we're going to do Sleeping Beauty, and oh look, we can do Aladdin, and we had all these posters made for productions we're going to do. And then as our studio started having problems financially, I watched Disney do Sleeping Beauty and Aladdin, and they went on and on doing things that we were scheduled to do. So that's about all that happened here, and I thought, well, it's probably meant for the best, because they made a very, very, very good Sleeping Beauty. It was gorgeous, but we could not have beat that. But I think what happened, Disney, what gave life to the Disney studio was the fact that in came Ashman and Menken, and they came with all that music knowledge, and suddenly we're all tapping our feet and singing the songs. It isn't just about animation.
We'll go to this side.
Hello, Don.
Hello.
I wanted to ask about Elizabeth Hartman from Secret of NIMH. She's one of my favorite actresses, and especially I loved her work in 1965's A Patch of Blue. But I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about just one or two things about what it was like working with her as the voice of Mrs. Brisby.
Working with
Elizabeth Hartman.
Oh, Elizabeth Hartman.
Just one or two stories you'd love to hear.
Okay.
She's a big fan.
Elizabeth Hartman, she was a gifted actress, but you know, in reality, what I found about Elizabeth is she had no self-confidence. And that was the very thing we needed, that vulnerability that she wanted to put on Mrs. Brisby, because she was worried all the time. Well, somehow when Elizabeth was on mic, she would simply say, Mr. Ages, are you home? No. She would go, Mr. Ages, are you home? Yeah, so there was a cry in her voice that was always there, and even when we turned the mic off, it was still there. So, I mean, and there's some sad stories here. I mean, Elizabeth, I don't think she had the self-confidence, and it's very hard for me to watch the movie now, because Elizabeth got so depressed that she jumped out of the window. So that's what happened to Elizabeth, and as I look at her picture in my books and everything, and I think, pardon me, she was living the part. She wasn't acting. And I found that out. And now when I listen to Secret of NIMH, I think of it, you know, and then maybe the pain that she was going through. I mean, the behind the scenes stories that go on, I told it in the book. If you haven't read my book, guys, shame on you, you should read it.
It's still available from what I understand.
Yeah, it is available. And anyway, a lot of the people, there's tragedy behind the scenes that you don't know about. The little girl that talked for Ducky. You know the story, right? Yeah, then I don't want to tell it. Okay, but anyway, there is tragedy behind it, and a lot of these people that are very, very, very talented and make you laugh and make you love watching them and everything, they're going through their own tragedy in real life. And so it's hard. I think when this little girl died, it was that moment we were in Ireland, and we had cassettes. We were doing All Dogs Go to Heaven. We had cassettes, and all the animators, so they could listen to her voice, so they could animate to it. Everyone stopped listening. We couldn't listen to the cassettes anymore. So it was very tough. Anyway, that's all I have to do.
What is your question?
What is a fun anecdote from making Pete's Dragon? Because that's one of our favorite movies.
Anything fun from Pete's Dragon?
Yeah, Pete's Dragon, that was interesting. Okay, Pete's Dragon, I remember the guy who was the director, Don Chaffee. He told very smutty jokes all the time. You know, and I thought he was entertaining us and everything. And then when the wagon would arrive with all the food for all the actors and everything, he was the one who would not eat. And we said, why don't you eat? And he says, because I don't want the blood in my stomach. I want it in my head so I can think out of the rest. And that's what he was doing. But he was a funny guy. He was a funny guy. You could not guess what he was going to do in the next scene. He always surprised you. My job on set, yeah, my job on set actually was to make sure that when we shot the live action, there was still room to draw the dragon. So I had a little thing that I could look through and say, no, we need more room.
We're getting you one.
I have a cough drop.
No, absolutely. It does. Here we go. This is one of our best DVD guys. Yes, we just got you some more for it. Oh, really? Thank you, sir. And you're back there, and I'm like, the jug is not playing. I don't want to play in front of the big jug, and I'm a little guy, and there's going to be, all you would hear is and then trapped underneath. Anyway, so, Pete's Dragon, did we get it all wrapped up? Are you happy with that one?
Sure.
We're here to serve.
Do you still cry when you hear Somewhere out there?
Do you still cry when you hear somewhere out there?
I never cry. No, because it's too much of a, when you're directing and everything, it's too much of a very cerebral thing. I do cry in some situations all over, but they are real life situations. But in the business, we're trying to make you cry. In fact, a little story that's really interesting. Also, we have made the, what do you call the Silver Symphonies for years, and we can make people laugh, and Mickey Mouse and all that kind of thing. We can make people laugh, but can we make people cry with just drawings? And so that's when he got his whole team together and he told them the story of Snow White. And I've heard old-timers tell me that the day he sat down in the soundstage and told them the story of Snow White, they were entranced with it. And so he went to Bank of America and got Bank of America to put up the money to do it. So they began to do Snow White. And at the Carthay Circle, which they've now torn down, it was the theater, that's where they had the premiere. And all of Hollywood, all the people that have got rocks, they all showed up, taped up and everything. They looked really, really good. Went to the theater to see Walt's Folly. That's what they called it. No one's going to watch little characters that are hand-drawn. So anyway, they went in there, and it says that what happened is after each of the musical numbers, the audience rose to their feet and applauded. And Walt was standing in the back, way in the back, sort of hidden from everybody. But he said what happened is when Snow White died, and there she was, and the dwarves were surrounding her bed. She said that he could hear the sniffs in the audience where people were crying, and he said, "We did it. We did it." And ever since then, an industry was born. And that is the animation industry. Of course, until 3D came along and then it died. Oh, I don't mean that.
I want to go to this side.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, which movie that you made is your favorite, not in terms of experience, but the movie itself, the story?
Which of your children do you hate the least?
You know what, I have studied artists for a long time in my life and know that some artists are from the heart, and some artists are mechanics, and they don't know that, but they're refusing to talk from the heart. And I think anytime that a piece of artwork speaks to you from another artist's heart, it is not only entertaining, it's enlightening, and it gives you goosebumps. And so what happens is it's from the heart. The reason for me that I can't watch too many of the 3D nowadays is because they are not from the heart. The stories are not touching the human heart, and they don't come from somebody else's human heart. But they are one-liners, sometimes bathroom jokes. And so there's no story there that touches me. And I think what I have to give to Walt is that Walt was able to tell stories that touch your heart. Pinocchio, my word. The struggle to become more than a little boy of wood. And to meet all the villains that are out there that want to take advantage of it. That's your struggle. To be more than just made of, skin and bones. Can you be something that's really worthwhile and so valuable because of what you think and feel? So, sometimes a movie is really good because it's from the heart, and sometimes it's not from the heart, and it should be, I think, just ignored.
So the Land Before Time is about a group of dinosaurs migrating to find a great valley. And you being from Utah, I wonder if you were inspired by stories of Mormons migrating to find a great valley.
The Great Valley didn't have snow. So the one thing that keeps me from living in Utah really is that it's so cold here in the wintertime. Beautiful summer, beautiful spring, but it's cold in the wintertime. But I think I wasn't giving that the thought. The main thought was here were 5 little dinosaurs who had lost their families, lost their loved ones. And by working together, they were heading towards what they call the Great Green Valley. What if I reword that and say that you are trying to achieve the celestial kingdom? It's the same thing. We're trying to find the Great Green Valley. Okay, and that's what they were headed for. But there were demons along the way, you know, that tried to stop them. And nature itself, you know, lava and things that made it really hard for them to reunite with their families. And as I read it, you know, being with family's got to be the greatest thing. There's nothing like over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. There's nothing like that. And I had that in my past. You know, and the meals that those wonderful angels cooked, they were just beyond anything else. Well, and all that's gone now, but the memories are there. The memories are there, and you can never forget those wonderful people. And I think that's the meaning of existence. Being around people you love and who love you.
I know that we will not forget today. And so thank you very much. Please give a